Welcome to Low Code Days. My name is Craig Trautman, and I'm the General Manager at LANSA. To start with, we really appreciate you all signing in to listen, watch, and hopefully participate during the discussion today. I know a lot of you have had opportunity to talk directly with the team members at LANSA, and I've had conversations with some of you as well. But with the number of LANSA customers, I'm certain we haven't had an opportunity to share information with many of you. Emails and blogs, which you've probably seen or received, have always had their place, but we also know that they're not always the most effective way to transfer information. And most of the time, they really only cover small snapshots or snippets of the specific events in time. With a product portfolio as wide as LANSA's, I think it's challenging to present the full context of what LANSA is really up to. So we thought it was a good time to provide a forum to sync up with LANSA customers and others who are interested in LANSA and present a broader view that puts all those bits and pieces in better context. We know this isn't perfect, but considering the circumstances, we hope that you'll find this a venue where you can learn more about LANSA and what we have planned for the future. This will also be an opportunity to interact and weigh in from time to time to the best of Zoom's ability during the day. So our plan today is to cover a wide range of topics and enable you a way to check in or not based on your level of interest on the topic. We'll have people from product marketing and product management. A few of our sales engineers will all lead you through the discussions today. We also know you're busy, so we'll try to move as fast as reasonable and touch on as many relevant topics as possible. Clearly, we won't be able to cover everything in a day. So if you don't see something you're looking for, or you want more detail on a topic that was touched on, please feel free to reach out to any of us and we'll do our best to help get the information you need. Also, if you see something interesting on the agenda today that you haven't registered for, you can still do that up until the time that the presentation starts. So our team is going to present a lot of information today. They'll go through slides, you'll see screenshots, and you'll see some demos. During the discussion, there'll be opportunities to ask questions. Questions will be asked by some of the moderators, and I encourage you to participate in those responses. We really value the information you give us, since that ultimately helps us help you better. Your feedback, we take your feedback, we put it in our big black pot and we stir it around, and that helps us aim LANSA in the right direction. So please don't hesitate to chime in today. So before Idera acquired LANSA in 2018, we studied and learned as much as we could about LANSA, but it really wasn't until a couple months after the acquisition that I came to understand how widespread LANSA's technology really was. I was literally at our office in Australia and saw this huge table full of magazines, and I walked over there, and it turned out that each one of those magazines contained either a case study or multiple case studies of successful LANSA implementations. As you look at these examples, you see that these applications are not just side projects or experiments to see whether a low-code approach can be successful or not, but these are real critical business applications that are important for the business's day-to-day operations in most of these cases. So we have tons of case studies with customer testimonials across a really broad array of industries, which include finance and fashion, healthcare, hospitality, government, logistics, manufacturing, and more. So if you're contemplating a project or wondering if LANSA has ever been used successfully for something similar you're thinking about, I'd really encourage you to go visit the LANSA website. Our case studies are all up there, and chances are you might find something that comes pretty close to what you're looking for. Let's see. Okay, well, I think we have a little typo here on our, okay, so we've been busy over the course of the last 6 months. And so today you'll learn about what we have and what we have planned for the future. But I thought it'd be useful to provide some background on what we've recently accomplished to put the rest of the day in perspective. The team will dig into these much deeper today, and I'm going to start with Learn LANSA, and this isn't to diminish the importance of our LANSA team spending time and focus on our product, but we stepped back and we realized that putting a proper learning environment in place for anyone interested in learning LANSA should be one of our highest priorities on LANSA's to-do list, and so we placed it there. LANSA has always offered a lot of informative collateral, but in some cases it was sprinkled across multiple places, and sometimes it was really hard to stitch it all together. So we saw a real need to improve in this area. We took all the information, we've consolidated it, we've freshened it up, and built a new e-learning facility on a brand new platform that we call Learn LANSA. This was a pretty significant undertaking. Learn LANSA now includes dozens of micro-learning courses, includes visual LANSA classes for beginners, novices, and experts. So regardless of where you fall, there are classes for you in Learn LANSA. And it also includes new visual LANSA trials. While the idea of low code has been around now for several years, the concepts and nuances are still new to some, and we recognize that. So it was really important for us to create a single environment that was easy for people to navigate and consume information, and that's what Learn LANSA is. Also, we released version 15. That was a large release for us, for Visual LANSA, and we followed shortly up with an EPC release. Between those two releases, we included over 500 enhancement requests, and that includes things like drag and drop API creation. We included more templates, single-click Excel integration, and many other things, of course. We also include a lot of sample code to be used within the IDE for integrating with modern services and platforms. Edgar, who'll be following me today, will dive more into the V15 detail. We announced a strategic partnership with CData. CData is a company that specializes in data access and connectivity solutions. Leading up to this announcement, our two teams worked together to certify more than 200 connectors to be used with Visual LANSA. And so as a result of this partnership, LANSA customers now have the ability to integrate their applications to over 200 SAS, NoSQL, and big data sources. We also released a new product called Portalize. Portalize was built for and first used by one of our financial customers. So as you might imagine, it was built with security in mind. With Portalize, you can build a highly secure, multilingual, fully featured portal right out of the box. And customers who use Portalize today typically can save themselves about 3 months of development time comparing to starting a project from scratch. So the portal session is one of the courses that are one of the presentations that are on the agenda today. So if you've signed up for that, you'll hear a lot more on detail from Tony on this one. And lastly, we have 2 follow-on versions of Visual LANSA in development, with the first one coming out in the next month or so. Version 15.1 provides more focus on progressive web apps, optimized cache storage, and more responsive design, where 15.2 will provide enhanced progressive web apps for work offline. I know Edgar will talk more about this, so I'm not going to steal his thunder. So the last 6 or 7 months have been interesting, and I suspect challenging for most of us. We've all been affected one way or another by changes now that we have to, that affect the way we operate day to day. Despite that, demand for modernization tools, as well as the need to create more efficient and business applications and maintain those applications, that demand seems higher. We're seeing higher demand. So we're stepping on the gas pedal and we're not slowing down. I also think that moving forward, you're going to see a more active release schedule than you may have seen from LANSA in the past. So where are we focused? 2 main areas. We're going to continue the evolution of the IBMI modernization, and we're going to continue our investment in the visual LANSA low-code platform for IBMI and Windows. We won't ignore our solution-based products. And as an example, of course, you're going to hear a lot more about PortalWise today. But I believe that investments in visual LANSA will make those products powered by visual LANSA better. And if I wanted to address this, if anyone was curious about our continued support for the IBMI platform, we recognize that the IBMI space isn't that sexy and it doesn't get a lot of hype. However, it's still a really large market, and it's anchored by a bulletproof platform that isn't going away anytime soon. So shortly after IDEA acquired LANSA, we reviewed strategic directions and market focuses and products and roadmaps and all the things you'd suspect that we would do. In the course of that, we easily convinced ourselves of 2 things. The first was that LANSA has a very significant market position already in this space. And secondly, is that the IBMI market still represents a growth opportunity for LANSA. So we'll continue to invest in products like Axes and Ramp and Visual LANSA for the IBMI platform. We're committed. And of course, low code continues to capture a whole lot of attention. That is what you'll see out of the analysts and lots of articles on that. Yet it's still a relatively new market. It has really high growth expectations, as you may know, and there doesn't seem to be any debate on the value it has in accelerating application development. However, it's moving. It continues to be a moving target. And as that market matures and the products evolve, we think that the differentiation between products will start to become more apparent. And in fact, we think it's starting to become apparent today. And this is where we think LANSA's low-code solution and the embedded language approach that LANSA has taken separates itself from most, if not all, of the other options in the market today. So for developers who want to create their entire application using low-code techniques and supplement it with a single high-level language, but only if needed, while always staying completely within the IDE, we think LANSA is the only solution today that does that. Edgar and Tony will both be expanding on this and what we describe as a hybrid low-code approach later on today. So how do we get there? Well, it's a priority for us to make our products easy to learn and easy to use. That is our priority. And we're addressing this from multiple directions, which I've kind of described already today. We're adding new resources like Learn LANSA, to make information easier to consume for our customers and people new to LANSA. We're adding new functionality that will continue to build into our products, and we're considering outside resources like strategic relationships and partnerships that we're building with third parties like CData. We're prioritizing quality. We recognize that our business isn't really judged until our customer takes delivery of our product and starts using it. LANSA has enjoyed a very high retention rate with customers, some who have been with us for more than 20 years. We value that. We continue to build, we want to continue to build on that. And lastly, we focus on the things that developers care about. Our goal isn't to build a platform that's everything to everyone, but instead we want to build a platform that will make developers so efficient that time to market for new applications and prioritizing backlogs that are all lined up for developers to work on are no longer problems for them. And yeah, we know that's lofty, but that is our goal. Also, about where developers spend their time, we recognize too that we need that something that we are addressing is that it isn't just on the front end of application development, but also on the back end of the ongoing maintenance of those apps by the developer. That's part of the cost of total ownership, which I think Tony's going to hit on later today, that we think is often overlooked or at least underscoped and not always fully understood. So so that's a very brief and high level view of where we are focused moving forward. You'll get more detail as the day goes on. And so with that, that concludes my part of the discussion. I'd like to introduce Edgar Wharton. Edgar is LANSA's product manager, and he will share some insight on some of the high-level directives that are helping shape LANSA's direction over the next year or so. So Edgar?
Hello, everyone. Yeah, so this is going to be very exciting. I am really excited to be able to speak to you all. I've had this incredible journey learning and understanding and exploring the various products that we have. And so today I want to talk to you about really what we have in store for Visual LANSA as well as our other products and what our vision is as a company and for our community. So, I mean, as you can see here, you know, our vision for now and the future state is really to redefine the application development space through universality, hybrid architectures, and an ease of use and flexibility through what we are calling a hybrid low-code environment. And so I think one of the important things to note on this is that we are looking at 4 important forward-moving actions right now. And so 1 being solutions-oriented, providing that universality, 3, making integrations easier and more readily available, and 4, expanding our cloud offerings. And so, you know, one of the things that I feel many of you may be wondering is, what do we mean by a hybrid low-code environment? And so many of you are already used to this, but we are defining it as, you know, it's hybrid solution development that really enables the cross-functionality of your code between environments. So whether it's mobile, web, and desktop environments, it focuses on building solutions both as an application developer and through the solutions that we build in-house to speed up your efficiency. And so when we think about a hybrid low-code environment, we're looking at the fact that with Visual LANSA, you as an application developer are able to start out with an almost completely visual way of designing and coding your application, and you're able to move up this wonderful ladder to bring in additional complexity. But with that complexity, we provide it as a very easy means of doing so. So, you know, this is what we're going to focus on today. But before I continue rattling on about the future state and what we see for LANSA within the next year, let's give a little chat to what's coming up next. So as Greg had mentioned previously, in November, we plan to release Visual LANSA 15.1, as well as another EPC that focuses on some other customer fixes and enhancement requests. So 15.1 is a hallmark moment for the Visual LANSA development platform because it's one of our first steps in showing the need for flexible and universal experiences. With 15.1, the application developers, they will be able to create progressive web applications, meaning that your applications will be both installable without the need of an app store or both on both desktop and mobile devices. So this is one of our first steps towards this goal of universality. So this release in general also includes a routing framework so that you are more able to organize your URLs and provide deep links to necessary content. And also it's bringing out the utilization of the browser cache storage, which is very much separate from application cache. And you're able to use that to serve content even when an end user has limited network connectivity. Now, keeping in line with being able to progressively enhance, we are working to set ourselves apart in providing progressive web applications for the business environment. We believe that experimentation is necessary and that as long as the various web APIs that are available function completely within your browsing context and that they have moved throughout the specification recommendation and the working groups, we want to be able to provide you with those abilities. So in 15.2, we're going to see enhancements to the progressive web app architecture in which developers will be able to provide the web apps with the ability to retrieve and save files on the native device, whether that is Android or whether that is Chrome or Microsoft Edge. You'll be able to access and save, read, right to the actual device itself. Additionally, we are building in multiple conceptions of what it means to be offline. One of the earlier things that we discussed here was that, we want to take offline from the most disastrous, I would say, well, not really disastrous, but one of the most pivotal moments. So, let's say that you are a field engineer and you are going out to an exceptionally remote location where you are going to be, filling out some forms, taking some photos. You'll need to have some way of uploading data and things of that nature. So that's where we're looking at for offline mode. So we're looking at the various use cases, both the extreme ones and both the small ones, so we can find all of the nuances within that. But one of the things that we are looking at with offline functionality is actually having a dedicated offline mode. And within that offline mode, if you know that you're going to be in a location that will have very low or no network connectivity, then the offline mode will basically allow you to select what needs to be placed into browser storage or into the window storage. You'll still be able to access most of that information, but this is just one conception of what you can actually do with progressive web applications. So within 15.2, we're also seeing a lot of performance improvements, and that spans the gamut between our list performance, understanding and beefing up the speed at which you can fetch and display data on your web applications as well. And one of our bigger advancements that I'm very excited about is that in 15.2, we will have the ability for IBMI users to publish web services without the need of an IIS or Windows plugin. So this is going to enable IBMI users to limit the amount of third-party intervention needed for what really is and has become base level functionality. You as an organization being able to publish your own web services for others to consume. So with that said, that's what we're looking at right now for 15.1 and 15.2. There's so much more that's even going into that, but for the sake of time, I got to keep going. So we're going to jump into a little bit of the progressive web app space because I want to give you guys a little bit of an overview of what this really means for LANSA. So we're looking at this as how you can do constant enhancements and how we're going to be able to provide more native functionality through the web. At the end of the day, progressive web applications, it's a set of guidelines and standards, and a lot of what is available and what is considered a progressive web application, that has existed within the web for quite some time, but now we're bridging it and bringing it all together. So when we as a company are going to, provide the ability to create these progressive web applications, we want to ensure that we are enhancing that experience over every single release. And with doing that, we're going to be providing you all with things such as, being able to access Bluetooth devices all through your web application, and being able to authenticate through a web application with a device's fingerprint sensor. And all of these things are very difficult. There's a cryptography web API that is exceptionally low level, and that is the part on us that we are working with so that you'll be able to authenticate your users, whether it be through a fingerprint sensor or in the near future, Face ID. So those are some of the things that we're actually working on. And additionally, the progressive web app allows for the use of that one code base for both web and desktop applications. And so as we continue down this path, we're also looking at various other means to bridge the gap between both the desktop, web, and your mobile devices, because we want our end users to be able to deploy anywhere, always. So one of the great things about progressive web apps is that within them you have cache storage. And this storage is very much different from the application cache. So this can be either a cache, or it can also be at a later date what is considered IndexedDB, which is like a separate database that allows you to store and serve up information via transactions. But for right now, what we are doing is, we put together a low-code approach for our offline support, so that you're able to nominate resources to a cache, and then you're able to separate resources by your specific cache name. So similar to how you're able to drag and drop or add resources into the application cache, you'll be able to do that in this method as well. And so, for example, perhaps you want images and videos to be cached in a separate cache store in the browser than other files. And so with our approach, you're able to do this without the need to manually code it yourself by working with those low-level APIs. And so with the cache storage, you're also getting the service worker, which acts as a network proxy. So the service worker, depending on the cache strategy that you choose, and out of the box, we are providing both a network first strategy as well as a cache first strategy. Each one falls back. Well, the cache strategy will fall back to the network if something's unavailable in the cache. So that kind of gives you a nice fail-safe. And then in future iterations, we'll be providing additional strategies that you'll just be able to choose based on the resources and what needs to happen. So let's say you have an application that needs real-time updates to a certain degree, or has a timeline. So let's say you want to create your own type of Facebook for your employees or for a small company that you have. Through different cache strategies, you're basically going to be able to do a stale and then revalidate. So let's say you have information being consistently added and streamed to the clients, then you're going to be able to capture that and always serve it up no matter what. It's a really unique technique, and I'm excited to be able to have that provided to all of our application developers. But back to what I was saying was that, with the service worker, it acts as a network proxy. So basically, depending on that cache strategy that you choose, it will interrupt the request for resources and search the cache first, and then serve up the resources from the cache, and which reduces the network calls that the client has to make back to the server. And so, like I said before, is that when an item is not in the cache, the service worker, it'll fall back to the network. And then once that response is received on the client, it'll clone it and cache it so that it's available for later use. And so this is all done for you. And it enables you to also manipulate it through the new offline support that we're providing. So I'm just really excited to see what people start creating with these different methods. And so one of the other things that will be part of this is our client-side routing. The client-side routing, that's introducing two new classes, the router and the route. And within these two classes, we're also building in more forms of efficiency. And this is going to be one of the first steps for all of our application developers to start seeing this. So within this, when you create a view, you optionally have the option of creating the route as well. And so instead of having to manually code this in, you can do it all within one step. So there's no back and forth between the source code editor and between the various views that you have. Additionally, we have another way where you'll be able to see the wider hierarchy of the routes that have been created. And so all of this and more will be coming very soon. And so, like I said, I can't wait to see what people actually create. One of the things that we will be working on ourselves over the next few months is, we want to provide both things that we're experimenting with and things that are definitely ready to go to market. So one of the things that we are discussing on doing is creating a progressive web application documentation app that will be built within Visual LANSA, and it will also serve the purpose of being our experimentation area. So what I mean by that is that, there are constantly new standards being, well, not new standards, but recommendations being provided for anything dealing with your web browsers. So there are many web APIs that are right now in certain trials and phases that it would be fantastic to provide a way for you to see what is coming next and what are our thoughts. And then you can also provide the feedback that we would definitely need and love and to help us understand better how you as an application developer, how your customers would be using any of this functionality. So I can't wait to get that out. It will basically be a documentation site that is a progressive web app, and it will be all about progressive web app documentation. So the things that you can do within Visual LANSA, the various UI components and things of that nature, and it serves the purpose to be our experimentation area. So I'm very excited to get that for you guys going. And so with that said, right now I just want to dig into what the future state is for LANSA. And that one's, it's going to be great. So the first thing that I just really want to take note of is that we've all come to utilize, many of these solutions that LANSA has produced, from the Commerce Edition and now to Portalize. And so our things is that we want to expand on that and take an approach that's both modular and or standalone for your applications. So, currently such solutions are customizable, they're scalable, and you can use them right away. And what is most incredible, at least I think, is that they are all completely built and powered by Visual LANSA with no need for outside tooling. And so, place yourself into that mindset of realizing that, these applications such as Portalize are applications that, you can also build. And that goes back to this concept of hybrid low code, where you can have something that is very simple. You can have something that you really just need to rapidly prototype and model and get to market quickly. And then from there, you can build out, a lot of complexity, but you're building that out with relative ease through one language that allows you to interface with both your front ends and your back ends. So I just think that is pretty amazing. And I love to really talk about that point. But for our future state, we're looking at really ramping up the community and creating more of a developer ecosystem so that you're able to share components and reusable parts and things of that nature with one another. And one way that we may be able to pull that off is actually utilizing our package manager more than we have in the past. So right now we are strategizing on ways that, we can make it easier to import, export packages utilizing that package manager, and also perhaps have some command line interfaces for that as well. But essentially, we want to continue making more of these solution modules, and we would love any feedback that you may have. I know that one particular module that a lot of people are very interested in is, being able to take, LANSA Commerce Edition a step forward, and being able to expand off of that and then have this, easy drop in, here is my store. And I can easily connect to, let's say, Stripe or PayPal or Braintree or what have you, and I can have my online retail store. So, a lot of that is very possible right now already within Visual LANSA. But through our solution modules, we want to make that even easier and provide even more functionality for that. And so here is really the big one that's near and dear to my heart, and that's universal application development. See, we want to realize a world where controls and UI components can be shared, where there is code reuse between all device ecosystems, regardless of the platform. And this is where we begin building the future state of what we mean by hybrid controls for all of your environments, and being able to both have, your desktop application as well as your web application, and have those two really communicate and work with one another seamlessly. One of the things that we are looking at right now is, if I have a Windows Form desktop application, how might I take, a component that I've created in RDMLX and plop that into a view on the desktop application, so that when I need to update something on the web application, perhaps this view is also updated within the desktop application as well. So that's what we mean by being able to reuse and share the code between the various ecosystems that we have. And so with that, with the universal application development, we are planning to build in more visual modeling tools for your application logic and conditions, and also API consumption. One of the areas that we're working on right now is, building out a wizard that will help you to consume APIs. And I think that one's going to be very, very unique. There's a lot of interesting ideas being floated around, and I can't wait to share those with you a little bit later. And another thing that we're working on right now is being able to provide more responsive layouts. And so this will actually be where we will provide layout templates that can be drag and dropped onto your web page object. And basically the goal here is that you're able to drop in your various components and so forth into blocks, and these blocks can always be resized. And in the designer view, as you resize one block, the others resize around it. So we're trying to create a very flexible layout for you all, as well as provide the grid layouts that we all come to know and love too. So this is going to be a really, really unique opportunity for us to be able to provide these various templates and so forth, just to help you as application developers understand and see how this all works. You can use it, or you can kind of build out your own template. So this is going to be a really good one. And last but not least, the cloud repository. And that's really about being able to pull down what you need at that moment. It's about being able to have many of the things of the various reusable parts and the various demo material within Visual LANSA to live within a cloud environment. And when you as an application developer need it, you can simply, type that in, request it. You can go to the package manager, request it from the package manager, it pulls down from the cloud. And this is really in an effort to reduce some bloat within the Visual LANSA IDE, but still be able to provide, all of the things that are necessary for you to continue developing your critical applications. And so lastly, when it comes to our future state, we are looking at, what can we provide for our DevOps? Like what are the solutions that we can provide to everyone? And so right now, we have the ability to deploy AWS and Azure. We just recently finished a project that has updated our Azure cloud licenses. And we've added in more security with the Azure Key Vault and certificate management solutions. And we have the deployment and build tools that facilitate deployment to the cloud. But what is our future state? So for the future state, and Docker is very much the near future, we're looking at having full Docker support. We're looking at being able to model how your CI/CD pipeline should work. Actually, one of the things that we have planned is that we're looking at doing CI/CD integrations with both GitLab and Azure pipelines. So we want people to be able to realize the integrations that we can provide, but we also want to figure out how to open things up so that you as application developers, you will be able to also bridge that gap and bring in, the CI/CD tooling that is necessary for you. One of the other things that we're looking at is containerized development environments. And these are actually very useful when you're able to build and test and debug an application within a container itself. And you're able to control those various environments that your end user has. Right now, we're also working on updated AWS licenses. And we're also working on the ability to interface with the Azure and Lambda functions as a move to enable what many consider cloud native applications. But that's really not all for the DevOps solutions, because I wasn't able to fit everything on the slide, but one of the things that we're working on for, between January of this upcoming year onwards into about March or April is more of a testing framework that will enable you to run those tests and push those through the pipeline as well. And these tests would be both for your front end and your back end of the application. So that's a very important thing that I know a lot of end users have wanted. And we're definitely realizing the need for that, but also the need for, it's somewhat unnecessary for any end user to have to go in and out of their development environment. So the more that we can streamline what is existing within the Visual LANSA development environment, and the more that we can add into it that doesn't necessarily bloat it up too much, will enable you to have increased developer efficiency. You're not having to switch the context between two different things. So those are some of the goals that we have right now. And I'm excited to continue realizing those goals and to bring you guys everything possible within this world of enterprise application development. But with that said, I feel like I may be going over a little bit. So I will say that, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to contact us, email me, or send me a message on LinkedIn, what have you. I know many of you have reached out to me on LinkedIn before, so you'll be able to find me there, Edgar Wharton. And I'll be glad to take any feedback, answer any questions. Also, if you use the Visual LANSA forum, I will be on there from time to time, and I definitely read through what people are suggesting as product enhancements. So please feel free. I'm very open to the possibilities and what is really necessary to continue building out scalable applications. And especially for end users that are, IBMI specific, I definitely want to hear more of your feedback and more of what you need as an application developer, or what may be missing for your operations within your business. I know one thing that is becoming more and more popular with IBMI right now is the interface between IBM, Red Hat, Ansible, and being able to control so much within just that framework together. So, you know, if there is interest in things like that, please feel free to reach out and let us know, because that helps us to really develop a roadmap that not just caters to our end users, but allows us to really open up more to the wider world and in regards to the solutions that can be provided. So yes, with that, I'm going to conclude this session for today. One of the things that I can say, we have a bunch of great sessions that are coming up later. Also at 12 p.m., there'll be another session that I'll be doing on user experience design for progressive web apps. That'll go over some tips and tricks and things of that nature. So yeah, again, if you have any questions, let me know. But it was wonderful, wonderful talking to all of you. And I look forward to any of your input in helping LANSA to realize, you know, what their future state is. Thank you.